The evaluators are using the methods that they are familiar with, and also the vendors are can recognize themselves and how we can map these kind of methodologies together. So I think that is a very important steps. We have some lessons learned, and I think we will need to improve the methodology as well. But this is, I think, comes as a very first step. It's very important to ensure that the labs and the vendors speak the same language. And then they can obviously address and do the impact analysis and other things that, according to our guidance or state-of-the-art documents.
Yeah, she mentioned the guidance, and this is one of the points I just forget to say before. One of the original objective was to do a guidance. Once we had the implementing ad that you already have seen that was published at the beginning of this year, if you see the article, the articles related to vulnerability management are really flexible. The timelines are an undue delay, so there are no timelines. So we decided internally in the group, and then we agreed with the ECCG that we were going to develop a state-of-the-art document so we can put there these specific timelines to address a little bit more and close the scope and don't give that big freedom to interpretation. Right now, what we decide that is too early, because until we have the first certified product, we have 1 year. Until that product have one vulnerability, we hope we have a lot of more time. But okay, we want to have it in place, but we still have 1 year until this need to be in place. So the approach that we are doing now is we will develop a guidance. So then we can publish it soon, only after the approval of the CCG, and we can have your feedback. And we will really like to have the feedback, all the industry, on this guidance so we can improve it. And then I've been talking about this timeline. So Gabor, you and me, we have discussed a lot about the timelines, these 90 days that looks too much, maybe it has to be 72 hours, like it's somewhere in the CRA. What can you say about this?
About the timelines, yes.
On the vulnerability analysis,
yes,
because we know.
on the vulnerability analysis. When we started to work on vulnerability handling, we had this notion that the certification bodies need to know about any potential vulnerabilities as soon as possible. That was the wish of the certification bodies, or the schemes, the NCCAs, which participated the group. And then as time passed by, we now have an implementing regulation about EUCC, which doesn't have this early warning about potential vulnerabilities. And what the new regulation has is a process which is step by step. First, if you receive information about a potential problem, you have to look at it, whether it actually applies to your product. And then when you say, yes, maybe that there is a high chance that it applies to the product, then you have to create a vulnerability impact analysis report. The vulnerability impact analysis report already has to conclude what is the remediation action related to the vulnerability, if there can be any remediation action. And for that, you might need time. There are simpler and more complex products on the market. And what we needed to create is something which fits for all EUCC certificates, and that's how we put 90 days. But 90 days, we also mentioned in our guidance that this is the maximum time. If it can be done earlier, then please do it earlier. And of course, every vendor like us, we look at it, we do a risk assessment, and we act accordingly. And Rasma here said that the labs and the vendors need to align. What I see is that all actors need to align. And previously we had the vendors, the labs, and the certification bodies. Now we also have NCCAs. We also have the ECCG at certain topics. So everybody should align on what to do and how to do it. And also we concluded that there is even a possibility that these 90 days is not sufficient. And these processes can be extended if the manufacturer or the officially what we call the vendor or the manufacturer is the holder of the EUCC certificate, analyzed the problem and has an impact analysis report already halfway done, but can see, like, after 60 days, they can see that this cannot be finished. They can reach out to the CB and say, here we are now, please extend, and the extension can come as many times as it's deemed to be necessary. So that's about timelines. It's not an easy 90 days.
Okay.
It's as soon as possible, 90 days, or even can be extended.
And to be true, the first ones to raise that these 90 days should be not fixed as it was in the scheme was Johan Dekop, and they come with a proposal with this matrix. And so Johan, as an NCCA, you need to have these reports, you need to have that information, but probably you can share with us how are you going to handle, what you need to be able to handle all these notifications, all these reports, how it's so important that it's 90 days or it's less time depending on the criticality. So.
From our point of view, vulnerability should be remediated as soon as possible. 90 days as a maximum, but if it can be faster, please do so. What for us as a NCCA is very important is that we have uniform, harmonized processes to handle the vulnerabilities and the process at the same level and the same way for each scheme. Because if every scheme will have a different approach on vulnerability handling, it will be unmanageable for every NCCA. And then I think we will have a huge risk on not getting all information on all vulnerabilities or all the patches that will be on certified products.
Okay. So next we have Jan Charles from Cisco. Very well known that you've been handling hundreds of vulnerabilities for a really long time. And I think Gabor mentioned about the early warning. Yeah. And we have many hours of discussion with you about this early warning that finally we interpreted that this early warning should be registered, but only notified in the cases that this need to be addressed. And how do you see the effort that we are doing in the harmonization and trying to harmonize, because we are in a universal world that your vulnerability is affecting worldwide now? How do you see it? What's your proposal?
So I belong to Cisco, and we are a large company operating in 98 countries. We have thousands of products. So scaling the vulnerability process is something that is a high priority for us. We have one.
Okay.
Could you hear me? Yeah. We have one single entity within Cisco that is taking care of vulnerability handling for the entire portfolio, whether we talk about IP phone, core routers, and different type of devices. So what we are investing on is making sure that we scale. Okay, and the communication, having transparency with customers, because you mentioned that we have different players, the labs, itself, and the cabs and so on, but don't forget the customer, because at the end of the day, why we are doing that is for customers. And beside certification, we have in place a set of mechanisms where we communicate to customers freely. So we have 20 years of experience sharing vulnerability details to the customers. And the particularity for us is that we don't know who is using our product. We have indirect sales model. Maybe in some market, you know exactly who are your customers who buy. We don't know, because we have system integrator, we have distributors that we don't know the end user. So we have to have a mechanism to reach easily people and to make sure that we can do this at scale. So when we heard about early warning, I think conceptually, I think the idea for transparency is a good idea. Okay, but we were concerned by the noise we are going to create, because if you look at the number, a company like Cisco, whenever there is a CVE outside, we raise thousands of alarms internally. How many of those alarms are actually real security issues? Very few. So I think that's we consider that having a mechanism where for every time someone is reporting to us, we need to go to a cab and say, okay, we have maybe there is something wrong here, and 2 days after just saying, oh no, it was not it's not an issue. I think it's a waste of time, it's a waste of resource for everybody, and it's creating a lot of noise. In security, we're spending a lot of time to remove false positives. So do not create false positive with this mechanism. So today, I think the solution that has been put together is much more aligned with the global practices. At the end of the day, we need time. As a vendor, we need time when there is we have mechanism to get reports. So whether it's TAC or whether it's the PCERT organization directly, people reach out to us and say, there is something strange. So when we do this, we need to allocate resources, we need to do analysis. Most of the time it's not vulnerability, it's misconfiguration or something that is not a vulnerability itself. When it's a vulnerability, we need to qualify it. And when we talk about 90 days or 10 days, let's say looking at vulnerability in the small libraries in software is something that can be done easily. Looking at vulnerability inside a microcode running on a core router is something that is much, much more complex to identify, to reproduce. So we need flexibility. And we completely agree with the goal of having transparency and having the open communication. That for me, that is much more important than the 90 days, 100 days, whatever. Making sure that we have a communication channel open and give us the time to do the proper analysis because at the end, when we have that analysis, we need to communicate broadly. We need to communicate to customers who are using our product and to understand what are the mitigation techniques that they need to implement quickly. If we are able to provide a fix in a short period of time, yes, it would be a perfect world. But that's not the reality. That's not the work. The IT world is not working like that. We don't provide images, high quality images overnight. So we need to scale, we need to test it. And if I give you an image, are you going to upgrade your full network with an image that you have not tested yourself? It's a question mark, maybe not. So I think we need this different step to say, give us time, we can tell you what we do, and then decide whether the certificates is going to be valid, invalidate, not validate, but I think we need this time for us to do the investigation and the remediation.
So I think that to complement the other side of the picture, is the cap. So I think Rasma can explain us from their side when a vendor notify her how this mutual agreement on time that in the low levels of criticality we have, what will you request them? Can we automate it? Because one of the points that we haven't raised yet, and to handle all of this with all the vulnerabilities, we are going to need some kind of automation. What can we automate? What we cannot? I don't know. Take one of the two questions. The one you choose, we leave the other one for the next.
Okay, wonderful. So I will pick one. Okay, so I think just to complement what you have said, I think it's really important to fix the vulnerabilities. So that is really the focus, is not to report that there are potential vulnerabilities. So therefore, I think that the move to provide the impact analysis reports to CABs is much better option rather than sending information about potential vulnerabilities to the CABs. We were just this morning talking about the new CABs that will be established and even the new ones. So for example, we are also applying for the same. I mean, the CAB situation and the organization is new to us. So we also want to safeguard the information that the vendors would provide to us. So I think I'm much more happier and relieved to receive the impact analysis reports than the vulnerabilities. And I think also it's really important to the point that Johan also made about the one way of providing the information about the vulnerabilities. So kind of one modular way, and that should be reused in all the schemes. Why is that? Because we will have the same vulnerabilities that are discovered in the scheme of the cloud and the EUCC that will be reported to to the cabs by the vendors, and it is really important for them to make it easy for them to do that, and also to make it easy for cabs to review that information. You don't want to have two different methods or two different timelines or two kind of different types of impact analysis reports that you will need to send for both schemes. So I think that is really important. And then when that is happening, then you can start thinking about automation. So it's with automation, it's good to have a standardized solution, and then you can automate things. But if you have different solutions for all the schemes and from all the vendors on not a standardized method, then it would be much harder to automate things and make things more efficient.
Okay, thank you. So Gabor, I love automation, but you also. So what do you think? We are at the point that we can start to think in automation, or we should focus on finishing the process and then automation, or we have to think in parallel? Now that we are trying to finish the process, to have in mind what parts can be automated, to make it feasible to be automated in an easy way.
Yes, so thank you, Rasma, that I could receive the automation part. Not really my expertise, but during the conversations in the vulnerability handling group, we have already received indications that if we create anything, it should be already taking into consideration a future development of the automation. So what we put into our guidance document is an RFC, which is a machine-readable information that we indicated to the developers that if you want to send vulnerability information, please use such formats, as then later maybe can be machine readable, maybe later can be automated. And we are creating our process so that it doesn't stop that possibility. But currently, we need to agree on how to handle these vulnerabilities first, with that in mind, that maybe later we can automate. So yes, one step at a time, but we are already considering this.
Because Johan, and then after this, please take the floor, anyone. So I stop removing time for you. But Johan, from a CCA aspect, now you are going to get by now UCC, but if UCS is across the corner, we're going to get hundreds of notifications. Are you ready? What do you need to be able to handle that?
Manpower, first of all. We will need to have some more manpower and more resources.
Well, no, that's not. We always say, all the stakeholders can say that.
Yeah, I think the problem is everywhere the same. So what Rasma already mentioned is that if we have a vulnerability that is there for over several schemes in different technologies, it will be very interesting as an NCCA to get only one notification of that vulnerability, and not for each different scheme another notification for the same vulnerability. Because at that point we can filter only one vulnerability on the different schemes, and we can focus on one vulnerability and double check on which products or solutions or services it will have an impact in our markets at that moment. And that will be, for us as an NCCA, a very important added value to have only one report of a vulnerability at that moment.
I think Jan Charles want to talk about this because they are very used to do this, not to address vulnerabilities in all the products.
Yeah, regarding, could you hear me? Yeah, that's fine. Regarding automation, I think it's a very important element to scale, and not only between us, between the cab and and the vendors, but also with the customers. I think when we discover vulnerability, when we fix a vulnerability, the job is not done. The job is done when the patch is applied, and when the customer can be informed, can know exactly what is his exposure on the network, and when the patch is really live to protect him. And this is a life cycle that we need to think about. And the only way we find at Cisco is to use automation. Today, we started like everybody, like advertising vulnerability using website or email or some RSS feed. Today we use API. that could be directly integrated into a SOC to make sure that when we are publishing something, it goes directly to the SOC and it can be consumed in an automated manner. So as part of that effort, we contribute to the open source community. We participate to a different initiative in the industry, like the CSAF from Oasis, which is the cybersecurity advertisement framework. And this is a good start, in my opinion, because it's not a Cisco project, it's an industry project with a lot of vendors, and it's a way to standardize and to have a machine-readable format where I can share information in such a way that you can consume it directly without having a man behind, let's say, every email that is coming. So, but this is something that we need to start. We need to start thinking, because creating a vulnerability process is important, but how it's going to be consumed by the customer is equally important than the process itself.
So you mentioned CSAP, and CSAP, we discussed a lot about CSAP 1 year ago, and then Gabor mentioned this advisory content in the different part of the process. We developed this advisory content, and that it was information that was going to be shared with the different stakeholders. Then we have worked in this part of automation, but we need to work a little bit more. We need to work in the monitoring of the vulnerabilities on the products that are already certified. Who wants to take the floor? How we do that? Who needs to take care of that? Vendor, manufacturer, NCCA?
Yeah, so I think first of all, it's the vendor is responsible for the product, right? So I mean, how should I say? So that would be the last resort that someone knocks on the vendor's door and says, well, you have a vulnerability. I mean, they should take responsibility for the products, and I believe that it's their responsibility to do that. And also, I mean, they are most capable of doing that as well. When it comes to the vulnerability processes that they may have, and also the monitoring processes that they may have, they should be able to detect it themselves. But obviously, as a kind of as an option B, there should be an option where you basically knock on the door and say, well, you know, what have you done about this?
Yeah, sure.
So, I can hear that the vendors need to be on alert. And the vendors, yes, need to be alert. But then also, if I read the implementing regulation, the labs and the certification bodies also need to be alert, because they might be knowledgeable about information which then concerns the holders of other UCC certificates. So if they get to know anything first, they also should reach out. And I was also working for a laboratory, and I know that we always looked out for new vulnerabilities, even just for the reason to be able to do the testing correctly. And so if we received something which we thought that's interesting for a vendor, we reached out. Also, what I wanted to add here, I think that's an important basic information for this whole thing, and Vicente already mentioned it a little bit, that we have standardized methods for vulnerability handling. There is an ISO standard on vulnerability handling, there is another ISO standard on disclosure processes. What we needed to add here to these already known and accepted processes, and we took them as a foundation, is the aspect of evaluation and certification. And that's what is new, and that's why we struggle a little bit, because this is the first scheme, and yes, maybe we don't have already UCC certificates, and we don't have related vulnerabilities to ECC certificates, but we need to know before those certificates are out how to handle them. And I would like to also mention that there is a related topic of the patch management, which is new here at the new UCC. And based on the patch management, if your product is already certified accordingly, then you will have more possibilities how you handle your vulnerabilities. Yeah, and one more thing, and then I finish, that yes, the product incident response processes, which are already there at companies like Cisco, like NXP, they already are certified according to certain process certification standards. So we don't not only have the product certified, which we need to look for vulnerabilities, but we also have processes which people looked at and found good how we handle.
I think Jan Charles, no? About
I
this
can
certificates
just
product,
echo.
because
I can just echo what has been said. First of all, we are frontline, so we are getting information from different sources. So cybersecurity is a game that you can only play with everybody, not alone. So whether we get the information from the lab, from the customer, from our internal research, doesn't matter. We just need to handle it. And at the end, we apply the same processes, and we have to fix it to provide remediation. That's it.
So Johan, if they allow you to have a wish, no, what tool will you need to? Because you also have a responsibility, of market monitoring as NCCA, and what do you want to have to do it?
We definitely need a database to monitor all the things that we can double check on that. And again, we are all in the same boat, and it's not who will monitor. It needs to be monitored, it needs to be handled, and it needs to be tackled. That's the main part and the most important thing. If there is a vulnerability, somebody needs to report it, and somebody needs to tackle and patch it. And then again, then we will have certified solutions, certified products that will be safe to use in the complete market of Europe and broader.
I think that's the big. So let's have one last wish for everyone before we open the floor for questions. So Rasma, what do you want from the group? What's your wish?
Well, how many minutes do we have? I mean, the answers to everything that we discussed before lunch. No, but related to vulnerabilities, I think. So I think what we need to have is, I think that's really important point that you made, Gabor, about the EUCC certificates. So surely. The EUCC certificates will be issued next year. I mean, we should know what to do with them later, so to say, so that everybody is clear on what the actions are. I mean, the vendors need to know what they need to do, the labs, the CABs, the NCCAs, basically, what is the process? So we don't want, all these different government organizations in different countries doing different things, because at the same time, they might be talking about the same vulnerability.
If you want to have a little more wish, it's okay. Okay. So Gabor, your wish as a vendor of semiconductors, that actually you will be vendor of other vendors.
Yeah, so my wish would be open and transparent communication at every level, so that people are not punished because they responsibly disclose some vulnerabilities, which is still at some countries, this is still the case. If somebody reaches out and says, oh, I found something, they could be punished. And I don't like that. I would like to receive the information freely, and I would like to also be able to communicate about it, because I think it's much better if you communicate that you have a problem which you have been taking care of, than to be secretive and don't talk. So that's my wish, but that's changing the world.
Johan, okay, we are going to allow you a second one if they.
No, for us as an NCCA, again, the most important process would be that everything should be harmonized and uniformed on all the schemes. And that is, for us, one of the most important points that needs to be tackled. So let's start small and tackle bit by bit every scheme and try to get everything in one smooth process so that we can use it European-wide for all product services and processes.
Jan Charles,
Um,
they leave you time to have two.
Yeah, yeah. So I will continue on the consistency, but don't stop at the EU border. Okay, we are a global world and we are selling everywhere. So just make sure that we have consistency everywhere. The dream is to make, let's say, reuse what does exist. Do not reinvent the wheel. If there is something that is not fitting exactly what we want to do, we can talk. But the more we diverge, the worse it's going to be. So I think it's important to rely on standard, to discuss standard. We can disagree. We disagree in that group a lot at the beginning, but at the end we came with some good solutions. That's key. That's key to make sure that the process is going to be smooth. And think about automation is really key. That process cannot be manual. We went through 20 years of that journey where we understand the pain to have to deal with that manually. So we need to think about how can customer will consume that from day zero.
Okay. Any one of you want to raise an internal question before we give the floor to the audience? Okay, so we have 5 or maybe 10 minutes if we want to be out of schedule. There is any question? Okay.
Octavian Popescu, I'm a consultant based in Brussels. I would like to understand if, and probably Johan is the best position for this, do you know if there is any EU level legislation or legislative framework that relates to the handling of vulnerabilities?
No, not from my point of view. I'm not aware of it directly.
Okay. I can give you an example.
Okay.
This has been introduced in the Radio Equipment Directive, and there is a delegated act which is actually amending the Radio Equipment Directive, and one of the things that it introduces is an essential requirement asking for products not to be placed on the market with, as they say, publicly known exploitable vulnerabilities, which is a very interesting ask from the Commission. And it's going to be even more interesting to see how they're going to implement it. So do you know of any other legislation? Because I think that's the role of the...
Yeah, I think we're talking about the CRA.
which is in draft.
Yeah.
It hasn't been adopted.
We're already there, I think. They're still talking about it. But I'm not that mandated for the CRA, actually. But I think currently, indeed, it is a CRA has the same level as the Red Directive at that moment. So for the same actively exploitable or exploited vulnerabilities.
I don't know if you want, then Charles, you want to take it, or
I think, let's say, EU CRA have that provision already. Let's say we cannot put on the market the product that have an active exploited vulnerability. That's a provision that does exist in the text.
Anyway, if no, I can answer. Also, one of the points that I just raised at the beginning is if it's actively exploited vulnerability, it's already known. So this process, that certificate will be withdrawn. So this process is for the status of the certificate. So active exploited is withdraw that. Maybe Rasma you can...
Yeah, so I think so we are talking about different things, right? So we're talking about certified solutions, and then when we, I think, talked a lot about this, so we talked about the perspective of what happens to the already issued CC certificate. So there we have the 90 days or less or faster, and this is basically what happens if the vendor is not doing what they are supposed to do, kind of fixing the vulnerability within the 90 days. Now, when it comes to the actively exploited vulnerabilities, that is a different story. So we have also different requirements in the guidance document that we are writing. This is something that needs to be that needs to be informed without undue delay to the CB, and that will be kind of handled as a separate and much more urgent issue than the, say, regular detected vulnerabilities, where the impact analysis is still kind of ongoing.
I think this answers your question. I see another hand raised. Yes, please.
You mentioned the document. Exactly, this was what I meant. What I was thinking about. There's a recall mechanism in the European law in place in Europe for food, for example. We know it, but there's also electronic devices which are recalled from the market. So if we talk about vulnerabilities, we of course need to talk about the impact, and the impact might be completely different from one product to the other. Do you expect some kind of step approach in this callback mechanism? Because whether it's impact which is small to one product might not be necessary to recall it immediately, but sometimes it might make sense to reduce the functionality or just take it from the network until the patch is available. So did you think about that in that document, or is it another string we need to discuss somewhere else?
Yeah, sure.
As consequence, in this document, you have sustainment of the certificate, you have withdrawal of the certificate, but we don't go as far as withdrawal of any product. That needs to be an impact assessment of the user and maybe also of the developer. And what we also see here is that these are certified products, and the consequence needs to be related to the certification. But even though these certified products, like for example, if you create a patch which is not tested by the lab, not tested by the certification, not accepted by the certification body, there is no attestation from a third party that this is actually compliant. You still can tell your user that here I have a patch, and you can apply it if that's more important to you than your certificate. So no, we don't go to the withdrawal, but there are possibilities in our hands.
Okay, so yeah. One more question from the audience. Online, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So actually, we received a couple of questions in the chat. I think, time-wise, we can take at least one of them. So I'm reading the question. If an EUCC certified products needs to be modified to mitigate the vulnerability, what would be the revalidation process? How fast can it be?
We almost replied, but Gabor, take it again because you just replied.
Yeah, it also depends whether the product has a certified patch management approach, because generally, if it doesn't, then if you have a patch and that product can be patched, it can be remediated, then first you have to go to your laboratory to check it, and then the certification body needs to also accept it. But if it contains a patch management approach which is certified, you can base your process on the criticality. If it's something which needs to be critically fixed, then you can provide a patch to your customers, to your users, and then the lab and the certification body can do their work parallelly. If it doesn't concern your TOE, but it's within the product, you can freely patch, and you only need to inform them. And then there are two other possibilities. The one is the normal one, which I just described previously, and the second one is when there is only a maintenance, and this is a minor change, then the laboratory can check, and if they agree, you can send the patch, and the certification body looks at it parallelly. These are the options.
Okay.
Many thanks, and maybe I take benefit that I go ahead with the second question we received in the chat. So, how does the notification process work in the case a certified component is used in several certified products? Would it be one or several notifications?
Oh, you are?
In my ideal world, it will be only one notification.
So you can have a third question, but I can also, we have not addressed, still not addressed the composition, because we are still working without composition, and it's still a hard work. So once we have in composition, then we will have a different timetable that what the 90 days can be extended, because with the composition, this could be very complex, as was Jan Charles saying, that is depending on the where is the vulnerability, it will take you longer. So if it's between two different certificates, different companies, even different member states, the process could be longer. So in two different states, there will be two notifications, that's for sure. But okay. Okay, so we are just on time. Oh. Okay, let's have one.
Yes, thank you. So I have just like a small comment type of question. So certification body can also develop a certain type of a tool where different companies can scan it, some sort of a scanner like a virus total or some sort of where you can find the different vulnerabilities in the application, and where you can find some guidelines, guys, okay, this is the process, this is the guiding principles, and you can follow these steps to remediate it with a zero-touch patch management, or maybe a certain other ways, some sort of a common tool. Is this make sense to develop together? Thank you.
So I think for the CBs that would be difficult to do, because that would be a consultancy services. And I think according to the accreditation requirements, they are not allowed to do that. But I'm sure that there could be other tools that could be generically used by different vendors, so to say, to do such scanning and buying such a service. But I do not believe that like a certification body could actually provide that as a service to the vendors that they work with.
Okay, so with this, we close the panel. I have to thank you for your great input and great discussion today. And see you on Thursday next week. That we will continue the work so we can provide you a guidance soon that can be published and get your comments. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you.
So we don't have a coffee break yet, so we can now continue. Can you hear me? Thank you. So, yeah. So actually we can now continue with panel 3, which is about attractiveness of certification. We heard a lot about it this morning, how attractive and sexy the topic of certification is. So now I would invite my colleague from ENISA, Chloé Blondeau, to get up on the stage and introduce her panel, her speakers, and elaborate around it. Thank you, Chloé.
Thank you, Xenia. So we will have on stage, maybe we can change the slides, I have slides for it. Sylvia Balmas from NTT Data, John Below from FMV, the Swedish National Cybersecurity Certification Authority, Omar Daher, Associate Technical Director from Digital Europe, and Jose Ruiz Gualda from APP Plus, Cybersecurity Business Unit Director. As mentioned this morning, cybersecurity certification can be sexy. And actually, ENISA has put lots of effort in trying to disseminate and promote certification beside actually building the scheme themselves. We strongly believe, and we wish it to be adopted and by the ecosystem. And today we already have a first scheme out, so it's time now to promote even more, to disseminate, and let's not stop the effort we have put in the past couple of years to make comprehensive material, videos, websites in order for the ecosystem to understand a bit better, try not to use acronyms, and we will try to do that. So we keep the topic open. And we will see in this panel together how this effort is also reproduced and maintained at a national level also, but also with a private ecosystem. Because we see that there is a weight put on the shoulder of certification with the new regulations coming, NIS2, the Cyber Resilience Act, the Cyber Solidarity Act. So we see this pressure, but we also see the work of ENISA building more schemes, but how does the market accept it? How can this? How can we support this adoption and bring consistency as well between the pressure on one side and the opportunity, the business opportunity on the other side? So first, to answer this, well, one of the questions would be John Below. So, Director, Head of Department Cybersecurity and Certification in Sweden, in the National Cybersecurity Authority. How should we proceed to ensure there is a market uptake for the European Cybersecurity Certification Framework?
Thank you. I think we're embarking on a bit of a journey, I guess. We've sort of, the first ship has been launched here. We have a few more in the shipyard heading out to sea. We will see if there are choppy waters coming, waiting for the wind sort of to catch our sails and get this market going. Hopefully it will not be sort of the Iliad and the Odyssey, but I think we're going to get to a safe port as we move along. Certification can be a very powerful tool if it's used right and if it's used as part of a cybersecurity toolbox. And I think this is really important for the uptake and to see how this market fits into the broader context. And I think there's maybe three main points about this, how we're going to enhance this market for cybersecurity certification. So making certification relevant, making certification attractive, and making certification accessible. So if we look at the relevant part there, how do we make it relevant? We need to keep our focus on cybersecurity aspects. That's the whole point and raison d'etre of the whole system that we're building, the framework here. Keep it technical, the cybersecurity focus. If you need strategic issues to be handled, policy issues and things like that, we can look at the approach of the 5G toolbox, where you separate between strategic measures and technical measures, where certification comes into the technical part. We need to develop schemes that capture where certification is the right tool in this sort of broader cybersecurity toolbox for a specific cybersecurity goal. You can have self-assessment for certain non-critical products, etc. You can use the high and substantial levels of assurance for other types of very critical products, etc. You might consider process certification. We've talked a little bit about that today, for maybe more cross-cutting issues. We have IoTs as maybe a more broader-based type of certification that could be used here with a broad application. That might also be a market uptake situation, especially now that we're building this new system, testing it out, kicking the wheels a little bit to see how it's going to work. Finally, and I think I'll come back to this several points, but ensuring consistency between the certification requirements in the EU legislation. We have fairly sectoral, siloed, negotiated EU legislation, and of course Lorena started the day mentioning all of these ones that have been coming out the last 5 years. Very productive cybersecurity EU legislation coming out. But we just had the panel on eIDAS and the digital wallet. Of course, there are issues around where you add certain requirements, you add certain complexity to an already existing framework. It creates a bit of an inconsistency between these regulations. How do we make it attractive? only add the controls and the bureaucratic red tape, if you will, where it's absolutely justified or necessary. We don't need to create additional layers if they are not justified. They should be geared towards adding cybersecurity and trust in the system. We might have risked creating a very burdensome control system on top of sort of the regular NLF framework with certification under accreditation. So we need to be aware of that when we're building this. Use for procurement, helping this being a tool for procurement, and that's envisioned in the NIS2, where every member state should have a national strategy. One of the points that should be included in that strategy is how to use, among other things, certification as a tool for procurement to have the right requirements posed there. And finally, clarity in the requirements by using standards, harmonized standards, as far as possible. We've been talking about that today as well. This fosters foreseeability, not least for the market and those that are certifying their products. Finally, and I'll come back to this a little bit, ensuring a workable interplay with the global markets. And I mean, we've talked about that today. Thirdly, accessible. How do we make it accessible? Foster this establishment of conformity assessment bodies so that the market actually has access to certification services. Of course, NCCAs like us and also the national accreditation bodies, they play a crucial role in ensuring a smooth and efficient process for those that want to establish themselves as assessment bodies. Again, interplay with EU legislation, ensuring that schemes that cover or go towards different types of EU legislation is harmonized as far as possible. And of course, we have the CRA coming, the Resilience Act, we have the II Act, NIS2 I mentioned, and not least the addition now to this Cybersecurity Act with managed security services will add a whole new dimension to the framework as well when it comes to what's possible to certify. Finally, the framework needs to be understandable and the rules need to be relevant. And I touched upon that a little bit. We have the review of the Cybersecurity Act coming up. Lorena again alluded to that. And this hopefully will clear up some inconsistencies, at least in that part of the framework. And if I may, just on the global aspects then, just touch on that just slightly. The global market aspects are really important for certification. We have the CCRA as an established existing framework that's been around for a while. So we need to ensure a clear transition there. Having rules that work together with those outside the EU and inside the EU, of course, ensures comparability across borders as well. Mutual recognition is talked about. It's a tricky area. Mutual recognition agreements are notoriously difficult sometimes and can take quite a long time. And we have big countries here that, of course, might have issues around how exactly to pose those requirements. So we also enter into the choppy waters, if you will, of international trade and those types of policies, and the political dimension is added through that. But we have other examples of global cooperation. We have the EU-US announced cooperation around standardization and mutual recognition when it comes to Internet of Things labeling. And this can also probably be something to look a little at when it comes to certification as well. This is just a little bit from my side what I see in this little journey on the water that we're on now. So thank you.
Yeah, so there is lots done, but we see there is many challenges to tackle, avoid the silos, make it global, that would be key, and support procurement processes. This is really business related issue, and that's how we can support the industry. And let's not forget as well, small and medium businesses will be also key for us to have a board certification, and we will need to make sure they can join us. On this point, maybe I will ask to Omar. So Omar, you're actually more in charge of standardization and compliance, but we talked a lot today about standardization and how certification and standardization needs to work hand in hand to avoid the fragmentation of the market. And could you tell us what would be the position of Digital Europe in regards with cybersecurity certification? And do you have any action in place maybe to promote already or support the adoption?
So, borrowing from John, thank you. And thank you, Chloe. Yes, I think Digital Europe as an industry association leading the digital transformation and working with interest and on the CRA and the whole cybersecurity scheme. We do support the certification schemes here, and we think that it is, if it is implemented correctly, it should be and it will be a building block towards a more effective single market. I have so many lines to say. They all were used by the keynote speaker, so makes a little bit my job easier. But we've heard today about competitiveness. We heard about the single market. We heard about the attractiveness of certification, which is certainly something that we think it's important to have. And we heard about Europe's position in that, where we do have some competencies in certification. Building on that, I think if we go back to the main focus of the latest legislation, it's all about trust. It's all about ensuring trust, trusted services. And this could be a competitive edge for Europe. Using certification in that way is an important building block. We heard harmonization as well. We need to do that because if we end up with competing certificates, that's not going to be good for everyone, especially for SMEs. We heard about simplicity, accessibility from John. This is also needs to be tackled because, again, if we think about an SME, most likely the CEO is the same one who is dealing with cybersecurity, who is the same CTO doing all the cybersecurity work in their SME. And it needs to be accessible in an easy way, all right, but in a trusted way as well. So we need to have an SME-friendly certificates as well. So all of these factors need to play and to be a kind of a prerequisite for a good certificate. We've heard, and I think I need to repeat this again, certify once and then access all the markets you need in the single market. This is a thing that we must always ensure to make sure that the certification will be attractive for the businesses. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Actually, the market of certification is quite active. I mean, ENISA is not building something out of nowhere, for sure. And we see there is a big dynamic behind this. So last year, Jose Ruiz Gualdas participated with ENISA to a study on the market trend of cybersecurity assessment. So, yeah. And so you can present.
Yep, we did the report for first to understand what the market was, okay, because common criteria UCC is a big and important part of the cybersecurity certification market, but we are more. We do a lot of more things, and so we wanted to show to demonstrate also to Europe, to the world, what we are doing, no, as an industry. And we took 42 cybersecurity assessments into account in the report. There could be more. I mean, even for next year, we are thinking to include other standards. Okay, that could be very nice to see. But you can see we have common criteria. We have the fixed time evaluation methodology that we have several ones in Europe. that I see some kind of fragmentation but in the market, but it's another topic. We have crypto certification, we have all the payment schemes. There are a lot of the labs in Europe, we are doing a lot of payment evaluation, and it's a big part of our business. We have the IoT wall, complex, difficult, with several certifications, okay? We also analyze the cloud services, also in this case very complex to really understand the market, okay? It's not that we have a single point to check the certificates we have, so it was challenging, I think something also to improve, okay? And we have for sure mobile, ADAS, identification, industrial, so it was quite a nice work. Could you move, Chloe? And this infographic, I love it. It was Chloe who designed it, but I think shows it's a good summary of what the report and some interesting figures. The one that I like more is that 50% of the scheme we have analyzed has been born in the last 5 years. So I'm now 17 years working in common criteria wall, and the first ones were a little boring. I mean, nothing was changing, only common criteria, a little of FIPS, but it was quite stable. Now, I would say we're in a vibrant sector, and it's nice. It makes more attractive also for us to recruit employees, and I would say all of us in the industry, we are enjoying a little more, okay? What else? The number of certificates, you can see that is growing. I said having the total number is, you could say it's a good or not, but I think the most important is the evolution, okay? We have some of the assessment methods we have analyzed that, for example, they don't show the numbers per year. And my idea was to show the evolution. Okay, are we growing as a market? Are we having more certificates? Are we having more schemes? So I think that is, I like to see the evolution. And we can see that we are growing. Why we are growing? Mainly by IoT. Okay, we have there are new IoT level certificates. Okay, and it's a big portion of the new certificates. And also we wanted to understand the capacity, because with all the CRA, Red Directive, are we ready as an industry? I mean, tech companies are going to say to you, yes, we are ready, but I think we are ready because I work on that. But we need to grow also, I think, as an industry. If currently with CRA, if all companies need to go through a lab, we don't have that capacity. So we know that there will be self-declaration and so on, but even as an industry, I think a lot is coming, and we need to prepare ourselves. So also understanding the number of caps was also a good to know. Okay, so this is also that something that we check. Okay, next slide. So, as we mentioned, the number of certificates is increasing. It's good. Okay, overall because there are new assessment methods. For common criteria, it's more or less stable. Okay. For example, this year, 2024, that now we are working the report. In 2023 was the best year for common criteria certificate. So it's increasing but stable. That you will see in the next report. And also new regulations are coming. Okay, so it means that the sector will grow. Okay, I'm pretty sure of that. And the number of caps. Half of the caps ITSF in the world doing common criteria, they are in Europe. I mean, I think Europe is the main industry for cybersecurity certification. I mean, and this mainly because Europe is quite active in this sector. But I think the tech industry here, we are doing our homework to have the capacity to cover what is mandated in the regulation. Around 20%, okay, of the assessment body are in Europe. For common criteria is half. Okay, more or less was this the highlights of the market. I hope that this year we can check the trend, that we can analyze 2023, and we can see if we are improving as an industry or where we are.
Yeah. Thanks. And this year report, unfortunately, won't show yet the impact of EU cybersecurity certification, because there won't be any certificate this year. Like the first one will come from February 2025.
Let's see if at least we can include the caps that are UCC accredited. It will be, let's see.
Yeah, so the caps need
let's
to
see
be
in December how many caps, how many ITSF are accredited. There will be accredited. We are having our problems, but we will solve them.
And actually, a question for you, because you plan to become a CAB for EUCC. How do you see what are the questions for your customers? How do they perceive EU cybersecurity certification?
I think that there is a strong interest. Sometimes it's true that we don't have all the answers, and it's an issue. And we need to show to the market that we have certainty. And what internally analyzing us, because people start to ask, okay, could you provide me a quote for a UCC? And sometimes internally we say, okay, what do we do? But at least our, let's say, understanding is that the technical work, okay, could differ a little, okay, but the technical work could be reused. I think this is important because common criteria is there. I mean, we are solving some issues, okay, but common criteria, the standard is there, so you can prepare to that. And sometimes it's not straightforward. I mean, if you need to adapt your life cycle for common criteria, it doesn't take one day. It's not having a consultant writing one document. No, it takes effort. Adapting your testing to having common criteria in your testing procedure, it takes time. Documenting the product. We know that in common criteria there are some requirements. So I will say to them, I mean, preparing for that you can do now, okay? And even you could start the evaluation. Maybe we need to check. We'll need to do some tricks at the end to have an UCC certificate. But preparing is something that people should do. I mean, and it's something that is, unfortunately, you talked before about simplicity. Cybersecurity is not simple. I mean, we do our best, to be honest, to make it as simple as we can, but it's a complex topic, okay? And you need preparation. And I always say, in Spain, for example, by law, is cybersecurity certification for most of the cases is mandated, is mandatory. And I think I don't see any customer complaining. I mean, all the vendors are very happy. I mean, and they are investing money and they are receiving more money. So, and also the government is happy because they have more assurance, they can prevent. So, I think that we need to. I think we are ready. I mean, the caps. I mean, we know there are some issues we need to solve, but people can start now. I mean, so I encourage them to do it.
Yeah, and so preparing, it's also something the Commission, European Commission and ENISA will try to support. And actually just this week has been released a platform that will be, so now it's, let's say it's empty and ready to be filled with all the questions from the ecosystem. But this platform will be key to animate the community, and the owners of this platform will be the ecosystem themselves. Of course, ENISA and the Commission will support this and try to make sure it's well populated. So we have Silvia Balmas, who represents Entity Data, who is the contractor behind the platform developed to support this. So,
thank you, Chloe. So I have a couple of slides to make also the visual look of the platform for you to understand
closer.
what we. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. So there's a couple of slides just to see, just to show you how the platform is, and just to make you an idea, a visual look of it. So basically, we will talk about the aims and goal of the platform, the needs that the platform were to fulfill after we had initial talks with the target audiences. We will show two different phases of the platform, the public phase and the one that you could see accesses by you login. Then we will be talking about platform editorial roles, the different types of content, and the different sections that we have that will be more interesting for the public, such as the directory, the forum, the community. Yeah, so let's talk, initially talk about the platform. So what are the aims? Basically, the aims are really to, as Chloe was mentioning before, to gather the EU cybersecurity certification ecosystem on a single platform, to make all the stakeholders talk with themselves and to gather all the content in one single place. So it's about creating a link between all the different actors, animating the community and sharing the knowledge in general. On the top behind the title, you can see that there is the link to the platform, so it's accessible as we are speaking. So it was launched last week. It's really new. Then those are the goals that the platform will serve. Specifically, those one have been points that came up from conversations that we had before building the platform with all stakeholders, and we find that most of the stakeholders really needed a supporting platform for the collaboration, something that could be a navigation tool for information about the cybersecurity certification, a place to meet and discuss between member states and key stakeholders, but also something that is more safe space for all the stakeholders to talk, to discuss, to kick off activities, projects, and partnership. And in general, well, this platform, it's really a living tool to serve the needs of the cybersecurity community. And living tool means that it really needs to be filled by the community. So. And for this reason, we really encourage you to enter, and as in the next coming months, the content will be more populated, really to participate in it. These needs, it's also a recopilation of the discussion that we have initially with the stakeholders, and from there you can clearly see that the platform will serve the needs of three big columns we can call, that are solution providers, conformity assessment bodies, and security consumers users, so the general users. And those targets are also the target that you will see in our platform. So the content is really divided, specifically the content, the information content about cybersecurity certification is divided by those three strands of target users. And in the blue boxes behind all the targets, you can see that there are specific sections that are relevant for each specific target. So, for example, for the solution providers, will be really interesting the session of news and events, the forum, the community, and the directory, and so on for the others. As I was saying before in the introduction, the platform is two-folded, so it has two faces. So it has the public face, the one that you can access just by typing the login in a browser, and we can call it public session. So in the public session is considered sort of limited in the functions, because you can see, for example, the home page, the certification information that are already there, news and events, but only a partial access to news and events, the about section, and the contact. When someone tries to log in, so it's the bottom on the right top of the page, then enters in those that we are calling the private session. You need to log in through your login details. And it will appear some other tabs, such as the directory, the forum, the communities, and the full access to the news and events. For those ones that are marked with a star, there will be some slides afterward that I will be explaining more about the functionalities. Here the slide shows that by registering through uLogin, there is also a possibility to get more sort of role and more power into the platform. Depending of the role, as I was saying, someone could be a community moderator or a community contributor, for example. So the distinguishing between those is that the community moderator can really moderate the content of a specific community, while a community contributors can contribute to the specific conversations and can initiate other conversation between the community. Then the platform, as I was mentioning also before, have different types of content. So there is the aggregated content, the original content, and the curated content specifically. So the aggregated content is present in the public session, and it's a content that will be automatically retrieved from those that we are called trusted sources. That for the moment are the website of ENISA and DigiConnect, and specifically to retrieve news and events that are already present in those portals. Then there is the original content that is mainly in the public and in the private sections, and it's content that the members and the registered members are inputting in the platform, such as in the communities and in the forums, for example. And then there is the curated content that is referred to the social media, and it's the content that will serve to the platform to get more users. So through social media, have some boosting of the users for the platform. Here I'm going, a little bit in depth in the sections that one can access through the uLogin. The first one will be is a directory that it will meant to be a sort of a yellow page of the cybersecurity certification sector, and it's really meant to connect users with trusted individuals or trusted organizations that are professing in the cybersecurity certification field. Basically, for example, if one wants to contact a specific organization, the aim is really to find it there. Then there is the forum, and the forum it's a space for any registered user that access through via uLogin to engage in discussions. And to share experiences, advice. So this forum can be used by the users in two ways, let's say, in a more active way, so really asking questions or initiating forums and really participating into it, or simply by reading the conversation that already existed and launched by other users and to learn from there. Then there is the community section. The community section is, let's call it as a safe space for the cybersecurity certification stakeholder to connect and discuss and to really start to work together and share knowledge. So here the difference between the forum and the communities is that the forum can be accessed by anybody through the uLogin, while the communities are safe space. So it means that they need specific access from the moderator to access a specific community. So it's really something that not everybody can create a community or everybody can participate to it. So there are users selected previously from that. And yeah,
Sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. And here, yeah, is the finishing of my presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Sylvia. So we see we have a tool. So today this tool has the schemes needs to be is published, and we need to enter the maintenance phase to populate it. ENISA won't have the answers to all the questions on how to start with certification. All the actors here will be also here to reply to it. The national cybersecurity authorities are the one that will make sure at their level it's adopted. The CABs will be the one, maybe you first go if you already have a CAB and want to start with EU cybersecurity certification. And Digital Europe or professional organization in cybersecurity will be key to foster the question and disseminate the word. So this tool will also be a great place to have all these questions and have the community answer some of the questions we cannot, as ENISA, answer. So we really hope we will get it populated and live. Maybe a last question to all of you. How do you keep, so people have heard for certification for a long time. Many see the challenges. What is the key opportunity and how do you keep them hooked to it? Maybe John.
Yeah, thank you. Just on the previous one, I think this is an excellent platform that we can use for this, what my colleague Johan Kluckens was talking about, this community that's being created here. So that'll be fun to see that develop. I mean, just, and especially for of course, those that are wanting to get into being the conformity assessment bodies, but then of course the actual vendors and others that are going to use this framework. Look at how much certification is mentioned across the EU's different legislations on cybersecurity. It's in virtually every act that's come out now. There's a reference also to certification. Down the road, when this is established, we will have a fairly comprehensive web for certification within all these different acts that are coming out. They're all being implemented in our member states. So I think we're in this transition period, and that's always a little bumpy before we get everything ironed out. But I think if you keep sort of a bit of a longer view, we see that this is going to be something that's going to be established. It's going to slowly improve in how we have our processes to accredit and to authorize and all of these things. So hopefully we can sort of get over this first bumpy period and then make sure that we continuously improve. So I think have that foresight and I think we're on a path to something good here.
Yeah, I think again from my perspective, I think that the platform will be the tool to reach something together, and discussions and working together with the stakeholder is really something important and relevant, I think.
Thank you. I think the platform is a good place for all relevant stakeholders to meet. But before that, this is a market reality. We cannot escape from cybersecurity because this is something that we need to ensure in order to keep our businesses and our safety or security in general also as citizens. So I think here also we need, and we've heard it before, we need competent CAPs, but we need also cybersecurity professionals here in Europe. We need to upgrade the skills, we need to upskill, we need to reskill, we need to go into the full digital transformation cycle, meaning that we just don't need only to have cybersecurity professionals in the cybersecurity domain, but we need to have other businesses aware of cybersecurity. and leaving a level of digital competency in this topic. And by this, we thrive this platform, and we have more people talking to each other, and the whole stakeholders, I would say, collaborating on something better. For example, as a way of raising awareness in cybersecurity, we are leading an EU project called EU Cyber Campus, where we are training especially SMEs on cybersecurity matters in 7 different member states through our national trade associations, of course, who are part of that project. So this is, of course, one step. And there are many other steps that we need to use in order to raise awareness on cybersecurity related matters. And then create something good through this platform. Also being aware that this is not something that to be simplified. This is not what it is. It is a complex topic, and we need to be aware of that. But we need also to give the SMEs an opportunity to understand it, and to maybe work a little bit towards certification in a way that they can afford it. So that's what we are talking here about. Thank you.
First, we mentioned before that cybersecurity certification is a tool. For me, it's a very useful tool. But like any tool, you need to use. So I think one of the key factors would be we see the trend that the European regulation looks that they want to use cybersecurity certification, but we need them to use. We need regulators not only in Europe, also at national level. It's a tool that you can use. So this, as soon, and we have seen the case in Spain, as soon it is not voluntary and it's mandatory, the attractiveness is more. Okay, so we need regulators to use, and we need to create a good tool. Okay, for regulators, that they see the value. Okay, I think we are here to do that. Okay, to create a good tool. Okay, and we need to keep improving the tool, making more accessible, and so on. But it's a tool to use. For vendors, I differentiate between the business people and the technical people. I think technical people need to be ready, because one day someone will say, okay, we need UCC in 5 months. And I say, no, I'm not ready. And at that moment, it will be an issue for the technical guy that is managing compliance and so on. So technical people need to see, you can see the trend. You see CRA, you see Red Directive. This is coming. It's going to come. We don't know if tomorrow and at which speed, but it's going to come. And some people, overall SME, they say to me, do I need the UCC? I don't know. To be honest, maybe yes, maybe no. But you need to do a business plan. Do you need, for example, UCC to sell in France? Maybe first you need a sales team in France, to sell in France. So sometimes people say, no, I need the certification. Maybe yes, maybe not. So you need to create a business plan. For vendors, they need to make money. So they need to think, okay, if I obtain the certification, what I'm going to obtain? And for that, you build. Maybe from the technical side, you can start preparing. I don't say no, but maybe you will need the certification in the future or not. Also, there are a lot of protection profiles that define requirements for your product. If the day that someone in the company is requesting you the certificate, if you are not compliant to those requirements, it will be a nightmare for you. So preparing, I think, is something that they can do. The most they do, the better their life will be, because certification is coming, okay? And labs and tech company, we need to grow. We try to grow as much as we can, to be honest. But I think, and we need new caps, we need more ITSF, we need more people. It's a big issue. We don't compete for business with our competitors, only about people. So we need to have more people, That's why we can have a beer with any competitor. We have no problem, because we are not competing. The market is very good, but we need more people. Okay, I think it's a real issue. And if one day these regulations mandate UCC, any other kind of testing, and as an industry we are not ready, people will not trust us, and this will be an issue. So as an industry, we need to be ready when the moment comes. Okay, and finally, for all the stakeholders here, we need certainty. We need to show to the people that, okay, we are ready, that the path is clear. So I know this has been a marathon. I think first UCC other working group was 2019. So 5 years ago. I know it's a marathon. All of us, we are tired, but you know, when you reach the finish line, you run a little more, no? Because you know you want to win. So I think we are now. We need answers, even bad answers. You know, but we need to show certainty to the market. So we need even bad answers. Then later we will solve, and we will have a better answer. But I know that everyone is tired, but we need a little more.
Thank you. Do we have questions maybe in the room or online? Oh, yeah, Gabor.
Thank you. Sorry, I know that I was just sitting there and I maybe shouldn't, but listening to these points, it dawned on me that maybe when you talk about attractiveness of cybersecurity certification, I need to shout out. The answer is not more people. The answer is not more caps and more methodologies. You talked about simplicity. And then Jose that showed 42 different methodologies which you monitored. I would like to shout out. We would like to have simplicity. We would like to have modularity. I'm responsible for site certification at NXP. There are sites which I need to certify 5 different standards, and the basic questions are the same at every standard. So what I would like to have is mutual acceptance of a basic ground methodology and additional scopes, and less people, because if you have more people, that means that I need to have more people, and also maybe John needs to have more people. And that you know, we won't have that. Do you think that's possible? To make that a question.
Why do you create a SIP? I mean, you are
to make that, yes.
You are complaining, but you create a new scheme, you know? So.
Yeah, but that's modular.
Well, I can relate from standardization. We always end up creating the standard that will solve all standards, but then instead of 14 standards, we have 15 standards, and so forth. So it's a never-ending question. And if you have more people, John has more people, you have more people, we have more jobs, why you're complaining then? I mean, one of our KPIs actually that we put in our manifesto is to close the cybersecurity professionals shortage in Europe by 2030, and I hope that we can, and I hope the CAPS and all others in the supply chain can have them. That would be great for Europe. That would show that certification actually works. But I do agree with you that simplicity is key. And it's key for every player, not only just SMEs, even for big players. The more that we simplify the process, the more that things will happen in a better and efficient way. I can also drag again the Radio Equipment Directive example that the gentleman brought in. We are now in the same situation where we are asking the Commission and the member states how ready the conformity assessment bodies, the notified bodies, are to deal with the cybersecurity standards that are about to be released or voted yet. They are in the vote process. And if not, how complex it will be for any company to place a radio equipment directive in the market. So simplicity is key, and I 100% agree with you. We need to make it attractive by being simple and accessible.
No? Okay. So, yeah. Thanks a lot. So we see we need tools, we need people, skilled people, and you mentioned not only cyber security people, you mentioned digital people, but I think you go even beyond that, because we talked about business plans, we talk about procurement processes. So it means we need to convince executive boards. So cybersecurity is just not, and certification is just not the topic for the cyber expert, compliance expert in a corner of the company, but it needs to reach the whole company to to be able to move forward. So it takes the whole European business IT ecosystem to actually be able to grow EU cybersecurity certification. And I will just do a parenthesis about the skills, because you mentioned we need cyber skilled people. It's also a project in which ENISA is involved, the EU Cybersecurity, the EU Cyber Skills Academy. And it's another project led within another team of ENISA, but yeah, we want to upskill the market to make sure we have the competencies to fill the gap on this. Thank you all. It was a pleasure, and I think it's time for a break. Thanks.